Hi, and welcome to Rational Expressions, Day 6. Today we're going to really start working on what a rational expression is and what it means. On the left here, I have a rational expression. On the right, I have a rational number. The difference between a rational expression and a rational number is a number doesn't have any variables, and an expression does. The word rational has the word ratio in it. And a ratio is a fraction. So we're dealing with fractions with variables. If you see the term undefined, expression has no meaning, or not defined, those three things all mean the same thing. And it means we do the same thing to the denominator. And when this occurs, we set the denominator equal to 0 and we solve. And this is when we were talking about domains. And we had a fraction and we had to find what the domain was. We would set the denominator equal to 0, and then we'd say it was all the numbers except for all the real numbers except for that value. Well, we're looking for that value that makes the denominator 0, and that's what we call undefined. So my first example, I have 6x over 3x minus 1. I do not care what's in the numerator. I completely ignore it. And I say 3x minus 1 equals 0. And I add 1, so I have 3x equals 1, and then I divide by 3, so I have x equals 1/3. So when x is equal to 1/3, this fraction is undefined. For letter B, I have x squared minus 9 in the denominator, so x squared minus 9 equals 0. I'm going to factor x and x, plus 3 minus 3, so x equals negative 3, and x equals positive 3. So either a negative 3 or positive 3 will make that fraction undefined. For the last one, I have x squared plus x minus 20. So x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0. Factor that. So it's x plus 5, x minus 4. And that means x equals negative 5, and x equals positive 4. So those are the two values that make that fraction undefined. And that's really all you're doing with those. For number 2, it says reduce the rational expression and then write in simplest form. Well, we have some steps we're going to use to do this. One is to factor first. And 2 is to cancel. Always factor first. So for letter A, we have y squared minus 81 over y minus 9. So I must factor before I cancel. I cannot stress that enough. So this is going to be y plus 9 times y minus 9 all over y minus 9. They both have a y minus 9 in common, so I can cross out the entire y minus 9, and I'm left with y plus 9 as my answer. B looks very much like the same thing, and you just want to cancel out and put a 1. You can't do that. I'm just going to rewrite my denominator. Just change the order, so it is negative x plus 25. And then out of my denominator, I'm going to factor a negative 1. So it's x minus 25. Hang on. Let's try that again. X minus 25 over, if I factor out a negative 1, I have negative 1, and then x minus 25. Now you can see the top and the bottom both have an x minus 25. Should put 1s in the place when we cancel, my mistake. So I have 1 over negative 1. So this is equal to 1 over negative 1, which is just negative 1. This type of factoring, when they look exactly the same with the minus sign, but just flip the order of the number and the variable, you can take a shortcut and just put -1 in its place, and I'll show you that in another problem. For letter C, I have to factor. So I factor my numerator. I have 2 and then p minus 4. And p minus 4, the quantity squared, simply means write it twice. 4 minus p, 4 minus p. Well, I have a p minus 4 and a 4 minus p. They look alike. They have minus signs. The order has changed. So this one becomes a +1, and this one becomes a -1. So I'm left with -2 over 4 minus p. And then finally, for the last one, write a fraction equivalent to 7 over x minus 3 with a denominator of 3 minus x. Well, let's see here. If I want to write with a denominator of 3 minus x, I changed my order. So when we were canceling out above, we were leaving it with a -1. So I have to negate my numerator. So I just write it as -7 over 3 minus x. It needs to be equivalent to that, so let's check that. So I have -7 over, switch your order, so it becomes -x plus 3. So -7 over, factor out the -1, and you're left with x minus 3. And then a -7 divided by a -1 is +7 over x minus 3. So that's what I started out with. So that means that this fraction and this fraction over here, or this rational number, or rational expression and that rational expression, are indeed equivalent. So this, however, is the answer that I'm looking for as the right answer. All right, that's it for simplifying a rational expression.